Where others see ideas as noise, she sees a blueprint for powerful strategies. Meet Anindita Roy, who has built measurable creative strategies that move conversations and drive business results.
So yes, I'm Anindita and I met Ashwin almost like when I moved to Bombay and a year later I met Ashwin at work and he's one of the coolest people I know in the universe, I think. And yeah, a lot of inspiration has come from him, like even in my work, the kind of work I do. But in a nutshell, if I have to tell you, my current role is working with WPP Open Door and I lead strategy for India Prime Video. So that's my current role. But today's session, I would like to talk about something which I think is required in the entire process of creative building. And over the last decade or so, right? Like this is something which has become very synonymous to my identity, how people like to address me on, like I'm known for, and that is I'm someone who is known to work with my left and right brain both. Recently, over the weekend, I saw a video of a brain surgeon saying there's nothing like left and right brain. It's just a myth. But I am going ahead with the myth, where I want to talk about the rationale which is required in the entire creative process and creative thinking, and a couple of the some of the work which I've done, and I hope it inspires you, right? But I just thought like I'll play two videos which are from very different worlds. One is a global and one of my favorite brands, not because of the numbers they get or the millions, it's the kind of sentiment they attract from people.
If you like reading Liquid Death's internet hate comments, you're going to love hearing them. Introducing Liquid Death's Greatest Hates, a wonderful collection of real hate comments, sung to the tune of 10 angry songs you'll enjoy again and again. Featuring solid gold hates like, "This crap is pure evil," "Fire your marketing guy," and you'll just love huge tools. Every single person involved. Liquid Death's Greatest Hates can now be yours on this limited pressing of 12-inch vinyl. Or listen for free on Spotify. Order now.
Do we know what Liquid Death is? Yes. Yeah, they are just selling water, right? But it's the way they sort of tell their stories. And if you look at this, right, like what they have done, the brand was like, they suddenly realized like they're getting a lot of, even though their sales are performing well, but they're getting a lot of these online comments about like how like such a faff of our products, these sort of negative sentiments were increasing. So they decided rather to stay away from such negative comments, why not make like a marketing gimmick around that. And this is what they did. And if you look at more of their videos, they always stay true to their brand personality. If I ever go to a music concert, will I purchase Liquid Death? I hope not. But I am a big fan of the brand for the kind of content they try and make. The essence of showing this video was for you to always be open, like keeping your minds open for thinking how when you're looking at your customers or people who are sort of reacting to your content or reacting to your brand, how can you utilize that data and sort of make that into a content? I'll show you another example which is straight from home in India, and so I'll just play the video and tell me if you have watched it during lockdown.
तो 2-3 दिन से कुछ जहन में था तो सोचा आप लोगों से बांट लूं। ऐसे बुरे फंसे कि नानी याद आ गई, ऐसे बुरे फंसे कि नानी याद आ गई, मम्मी तेरी मम्मी की सारी कहानियां। अब अब देखना पराये शहर में बैठकर बस सांस लिए जा रहे। मम्मी यार तेरे खाने के सपने आजकल दिन रात आ गए। अब खुद से बनाना पड़ता है ना, तो सोचता हूँ कि 2 मिनट आके वो बोलकर किचन में ऐसा क्या क्यों ना करने जाती थी तू। मसाले थे, घी की खुशबू थी। अब देख तेरी परवरिश ने क्या हाल कर। इस लॉकडाउन ने तो तेरे राजा बेटा को निडाल कर दिया। सोचता हूँ कितने खुश नसीब है वो लोग जो अभी भी इन दिनों में अपनी माँ के हाथ का खाते। तुझे कभी थैंक यू नहीं बोला ना, ये बात बहुत सताती है। तेरे हाथों में जादू है, दुनिया की बेस्ट इंसान तू ही है। कभी फोन पे तो नहीं बोल पाया, पर हाँ जमीन पर भगवान है तू।
Instagram was selected as the only media deployed, and a single influencer would share his actual feelings during the pandemic in the form of a poetry. The result?
Since I'm there, I'll talk about it. So, Mother Dairy was one of our, it still is weight makers brands. And what happened during COVID lockdown was like different brands wanted to experiment with different things, right? Mother Dairy is a legacy brand actually, but the thing is they were not experimenting with different formats, different kind of content or social media, so to speak. So while we could convince them that hey, like this is a great insight that people are missing their homes, like people who are outsiders like myself, and we are missing our home food and we are missing our family, and food is a great connection to build like a story, right, with your friends, and Mother Dairy could come in seamlessly without talking about the product. So they were convinced, but they had a caveat. They wanted Javed Akhtar to recite a poem. Now the thing is, while we get the essence that why they wanted him, it's because he recites, like he writes beautifully and he's known for those sort of things. But our counter to them was like, hey, like you are trying to appeal to the modern, the younger generation. And that's your brand challenge, right? So overall, shouldn't you like get someone who is more who has a better appeal with this younger generation? And that's when in Group M or in WBP you would know that there are a lot of tools and products we have where there is a lot of science which goes behind in choosing a face. So there was at least 2 weeks research which went behind who should the face be, and that's when we ended at someone like Zakir Khan. His positive sentiment at that time was extremely like skyrocketing, and he was the correct fit. The success was the competitor brand Amul. Their CEO shared the video with removing the logo of Mother Dairy, but. But the thing is that for us became like a big win, and I'm sure like you all have seen the video somewhere because it was shared on several WhatsApp groups, especially family groups, right? So again, the essence was like while the human inside of missing home, missing food, that's a strong thing, but we always need to think of what is it that will work for the brand's overall challenge. In my opinion, like, while rational thinking and creative processes can coexist, we just need to draw the border of saying like to what extent should it coexist, right? Like it shouldn't be like everything should be data backed. Like why am I showing morning? Why am I not showing night time? Like you don't need to ratify everything through data, and they should work hand in hand. It's like I have seen a lot of times if you work with agencies, there will be a creative team, there will be a strategy team, there will be a business team, and a lot of times strategy and creative they don't get along, and there are a lot of memes about these things online. But again, like wherever I have worked, I have, be it as a creative person, be it as a strategy person, I've tried to see like which is the best solution for the brand, for the solution, for the message we are trying to deliver. So it could be front-led by a creative in some cases, in some cases we have to be okay that if it is a strategy-led discussion. So that's what we should try and remember, and that's what I think I've always tried to practice. I still have fights with a lot of creative people who would want to go, because see, the creative thinking, when you're doing a brainstorm, when you're doing an ideation, you're like thinking of sky and stars and moon and so many things. Possibilities are endless, right? Like to chase an idea, but you need to be grounded to the fact that, hey, is it possible with the kind of solution the brand is looking for? So I decided that I'll choose two of my work pieces which are from a very challenging categories, right? And why, if you ask, like, while it is easy for me to think of an idea for a Cadbury silk or something like that, it's very challenging when it comes to a product which is consumed less but has a high price point. So my kick lies in that, and I hope in future you find your own kick. Like, what is that kick which you get while working on a CPG brand, or is it your auto brand? What gives you a kick? Like, so that's the thing, right? So I have chosen two products which are very different from each other. One is a very boring one, but we had to think of a creative solution for it. Total Energy is Hyper. Think of it as the big competitor for Castrol in India, right? So now when Total Energies came to India, it was always in India actually, but when they wanted to make something, a creative solution, which is in the form of TVC or DVC, if you, whatever you call it nowadays, they had high hopes because it was going to be India's first TVC. And the second thing is, biggest thing is, like, why would I choose Hyper over Castrol? That because the go-to lubricant anyone will think is Castrol, right? So so when it came to Total Energies Hyper, the process that we followed. Now I have simplified for this presentation. I have simplified a lot of data and a lot of jargons that we use in our media world, so that you all can understand. And if at any point you think that, okay, this is not getting through, like, please do ask me, but I have tried to simplify the entire messaging bit. The process that we followed was the what, who and how. So before you start thinking of any creatives, first you need to check, like, what of the message do I want to deliver? What aspect of the product is so interesting that I can upsell it, and which Castrol probably doesn't have, right? Is there anything like that? Can I find something over there? Who of the message? Who should be the face of this entire video? And lastly, how of the message? How am I going to deliver the entire ad? Now, in strategy is nothing but finding the why of it. So while you are looking for what, who and how, you need to understand, you need to answer that, why am I saying that this should be the message? Why am I saying that this should be the face? Why am I saying this is the message, right? So with that, again, I've simplified it extremely. Do we know what is an RTB? Yes. Great. So Hyper has durability, fuel economy, cooling effect. These are the three things that we know. The audience that we know we are trying to target is 18 to 44 male. They are HSM. Do we know HSM? Hindi speaking market is HSM. So if you work in the media world, it's as simple, like you will be given briefs as it's a HSM market, which is Hindi speaking market, or it will be a South market. That's how the differentiation is done. The third thing is, like, these people are mostly your college office goers. Their interest lies in music and TV shows. This is what the finding looked like. A very simplified version after churning out a lot of data. Now, how did we approach the entire comms, the communication for Total Hyper? We saw that the RTP, being durable, being fuel economy, being cooling effect, everything the product is delivering, if I have to simplify it, then it is basically a long-lasting effect, right? Now, if I have to mention like a long-lasting thing with the audience, it has to be very simplified. Second, it has to be in Hindi because of the market we are speaking to, and it has to be Lamban. So we arrived at Lamba Chalega with that process. After we identified the comms blank, we thought of a human insight. That majority of the buyers get influenced from the mechanics suggestions. Unlike many opinions, where people think that they are going to buy this oil because Amitabh Bachchan is selling this oil. It's actually in the end when I go to the garage, I ask the mechanic which one do you think would be good. So they are basically the influencers of the product making decision, and it's not the ambassador. So we wanted someone who sort of cuts across this 18 to 44 audience and their influencers who are the mechanics, right? So that is why we chose, and this is year 22. So Pankaj Tripathi was extremely, he still is very popular, but that time because of Mirzapur and many other OTTs, like he was killing it on social media as well. So the audience had high appeal towards Pankaj Tripathi. Do we know these people? Okay. Swarup Khan and Salman Ali, again through different products, they came up very high. They are from Indian Idol, to give a context. That year again Indian Idol was releasing, and since we found that music is a key interest of this audience, we decided why not make something interesting with them. And this campaign has been renewed thrice because of the appeal which it has drawn from the audience, right? So I'll just play the video.
मास्टर, ये इंजन ऑयल कितना चलेगा?
समझाना पड़ेगा।
बाइक जो लाया है तू इंजन ऑयल बदलने को, महंगाई बार बार इंजन ऑयल तो से बचने को, तो खोल के अकल एक बात को बांध लेगा। हाई परफ जो होगा इंजन ऑयल तो तू रहेगा जमाने से स्मार्ट। बचत भी होगी, स्मूथ भी होगी, इंजन की प्रोटेक्शन भी होगी, लंबा चलेगा। हाई परफ में है नया विजन, इंजन प्रोटेक्शन लंबा चलेगा, गाड़ी को माइलेज लंबा चलेगा, इंजन का कूलिंग लंबा चलेगा।
High Perf Engine Oil, a new vision of performance.
I'll just play another video. It's a boring media case study, but that's what works in
In a saturated bulk engine oil category, how did we drive awareness for a new entrant? iPerf. We speak the language of those who matter, the mechanics who would question, "Naya brand hai, aapke kitna chalega?" We just needed the right words of reassurance for the consumers. 2 words that said it all. And we delivered the brand promise with these 2 words in style with a category first fresh take.
मास्टर, ये इंजन ऑयल कितना चलेगा?
समझाना पड़ेगा।
बाइक जो लाया है तू इंजन ऑयल बदल, हाई परफ
A new vision of performance.
And we kept the groove going across formats. The Kalam Banhats and Harperf gained recognition as the Lamba Chalega oil.
लंबा चलेगा।
So what happened was, like, the mechanics, like, they loved the song in a way, like they would play it at their garage. It sort of over time became like their choice of lubricant which they could suggest to people, and that was the thinking behind making the creative. So that was one of the, I think it was pretty challenging because they were doing this in India for the first time, so it had to be something which sort of stands out because Castrol has already, they are dominating the entire market. So tomorrow you might have to work on a brand like Tinder. Tomorrow you might have to work on a brand like Lakme, or it could be something like this. So you should be always open to thinking like what is the what, high, why, and how the message, what I can bring to the table. What is the thinking that I can bring to the table? Because thinking of an idea is probably one of the easiest things to do. But thinking the rationale behind it is when you can justify it, you know that your idea is there. So that was one. Second, the second one I decided to pick up, and I think it's one of my favorite things I worked on, and I was associated with it for 3 years. But Tata Tea Jagore is a legendary campaign and a legendary case study. And I forgot to add the Hindi video. Anyway, do you guys understand Bengali or what? Oh, okay, but I forgot to replace the video. I have downloaded the Tata Tea Jagore is. Do we know about Jagore in general? Yeah. Do we know what is activism and pre-activism about Jagore? No. Okay, cool. I'll tell you. Now see, whenever Jagore has to communicate something about anything, like during a time, it usually happens during a time, okay? It could be Diwali, it could be like something around the environment, it could be something around elections, right? It is always associated with timing. So we were thinking that whatever we create for Jagore, the effect it should create for within people is that they should remember the message what we are trying to say. It is not at all about the product. It is what the product does. So the moment in the morning when you have chai, तुम्हें क्या होता है, तुम जाग जाते हो, and then from there you know the rest of the entire thing, which is Jagore, right? Visual tenet is what? Do we know what is a visual tenet? So can I create just like a jingle, like a lamba chalega, like I showed it to you. A visual tenet is something often brands sort of develop so that whenever you see that gesture, you remember about the brand or the product, right? So that's the visual bit, and we had to think around that. The third is the story spin, how to make the message more believable. So during 2018, so for people who do not know the difference between the pre-activism and activism, this is it. Okay, I'll again simplify. So they have two forms. The first form is alarm bajne se pehle Jagore, which is in the pre-activism phase. And Jagore is the act. So in the first Jagore campaign, if you have seen where Shah Rukh Khan says that everyone's names will, all the female characters' names will come before my name. That was part of the act sort of a thing. In elections, when they were encouraging go out and vote, that is basically, this is the time when you have to act because the thing has already happened. Pre-activism happens when there is a trend which is happening in the society and they want to make a comment, and that's why they are saying that kuch hone se pehle Jagore, right? So that is the pre-activism phase, and that is how the forms of alarm bajne se pehle Jagore and Jagore were developed. What we had located was the data. There was a staffing data of 1 in 5 people were facing domestic abuse. The timing was Durga Puja, and the insight was that hey, every year I am worshipping this goddess Durga with 10 hands, who has 10 hands, and every year it is happening. But the rest of the 365 days, or how many days, I am treating them in this form. So the hands became like a big part for us to talk about the visual tenet. And so I just made a video. For the ones who can understand Bengali, probably you can translate it.
এনার হাত খালি থাকে না, অন্য কারোরটাও খালি রাখতে দেন না। এনার হৃদয় এই দ্রুততাতেই স্পন্দিত হয়। চায়ের গন্ধে আর আশেপাশে থাকলে যেমন মন উচাটন হয়। এটা বুঝে গেছেন যে সবকিছু জাদু দিয়ে সেলাই করা হয়। ছোট্ট সোনার শুধু মুখটা দেখেই উনি খুশি হয়ে যান। সঠিক ভাবনা দিয়ে বদলে দেন ধারণায় নেই। সংকটে থাকে যদি প্রাণ, তাহলে বাঁচায় এই হাত। এই হাতের মধ্যেই স্মৃতি লুকিয়ে আছে, আর লুকিয়ে আছে বুদ্ধিমত্তা। এই হাত দুইয়েরই, ঘর আর অফিসের। এই হাত বোঝে যে দেশের প্রগতির দায়িত্ব এরই। দুই দেবীরই 10 হাত, ক্লান্ত হয় না, থামে না। কিন্তু সম্মান শুধু পেয়েছেন মন্দিরের ভেতরে, মন্দিরের বাইরে নয় কেন? যদি দেবীর এই হাত ছেড়ে দেয় আমাদের সাথ, তাহলে কে রাখবে খেয়াল? এই অ্যালার্ম বাজার আগেই নিজেকেই করো এই প্রশ্ন।
Back then, the story of live music in Bombay is my first feature documentary, which I made over the last few years. We made it in 21. We started. The process took around 3.5 years, and it was born out of a semi-frustration of the right and left brain I was talking about, and I really wanted to make something which is I should be the call from end to end, right? So that was one thing. Second thing is, like, I've always wanted to chase this passion of mine. I always wanted to be a documentary filmmaker, and it's very specific, but probably tomorrow I can make a fiction, hopefully. But documentaries are something which, I don't know, as a subject I love it, and I wanted to pursue this. So let me play the trailer and then I can talk more about this.
You know this place.
When I came here, it felt like home almost immediately.
It was a crazy time to be. I mean, I've been in New York, been in Berlin, been in London and stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing like Bombay, man.
A lot of experimentation is happening in Bombay. People throwing bottles, you go, you dance, you blast.
This is the story of what happened in the shadows. The underground live music scene.
Life was full of possibilities, felt like we were the very edge of the paradigm.
Except the fact that that is what that was our youth.
Someone there in that building filed a little case.
The cops came in and they raided us,
saying that rock bands are too loud.
We were in a scene where nobody was going to give me anything.
पहले से इधर ड्रीम का ये हम लोग का जो जॉनर है वो भी आया स्टेज पे.
There was no real infrastructure.
There was no place where anything could come together.
That's so fucked up, man, to see it like this. Fucking shock horror, man.
मुंबई जैसा शहर है इधर you can try whatever you want to try.
60 people are going to come for a first gig at 2,500 people.
There's nothing like Bombay, man. It should be called a planet. Bombay is a fucking planet.
Okay. Thank you everyone. So like I said, like after working across many years in advertising and many agencies for many brands across categories, there was always this inner urge to do something of my own which belongs to me. Proprietary rights belong to me end to end, right? The only thing was there was no time, because if you get into advertising tomorrow, trust me, there is no there's no such thing called 9 to 5 or 10 to 8. You will have to find your fine balance. In a way, when COVID lockdown happened, I did find some time to do where there was no travel required. Like I could put down my thoughts, and never in my life I would have thought that live music is going to become my first subject in the documentary, but it did. Why it did? Because I am fascinated by stories in general, and I love subculture. And you met Ashwin Dutt, and I think both of us, we bond over things which are around subculture. He himself is a musician. I don't know if he has ever told you that. And that's the thing, like we have to, we have several identities beyond our work life. And I'm sure like beyond what you study, there are many subjects which you are passionate about and you would like to pursue them in some way or the other, right? So I think this was an output of that thinking. And I thought like I'll talk about the process that I followed. So here it was the thing, right? Every time I would go for a live gig and with my partner, now he's my husband, but as boyfriend, girlfriend, whenever we would go for gigs and concerts, there were always be stories, right? For example, like, you know, he would introduce me to a friend saying that, hey, like, you know, I met this friend of mine when we were 15 years old at a mosh pit. And I used to find it very fascinating, like the kind of different stories I would hear about the live music in Bombay. That's something very unique. This is a city also where I found a lot of freedom to, and live music was one of the platforms where I think like it was great for me to chase that freedom. So when these stories were sitting, like I was sitting on a pot of stories during lockdown, I thought, why not tell these stories from the horse's mouth? So what did I do? I identified, like, first of all, like the first question that you see is the last thing I figured out in the entire filmmaking, right? Because I do not know what do I want to say. Like, I just know that, hey, I have a lot of stories and I can put together something. The idea was making something 10 minutes, but we ended up making an hour-long feature-length documentary. And the second question was, who should be the faces of it? Like, you know, why should I choose them? And the last thing, which is also the most important thing, where do I begin with? Because I have no idea where to begin with, because it's a big exercise. So if I start with who, I have just taken screenshots of the work the way I have done, right? Like, I put all my thoughts in an Excel. Even if it is a creative idea, I don't know why, I find Excels to be very comforting for me. And so and I would advise, like, like if you are ever lost in your life, right? Be it with work, be it with life, be it with anything, open an Excel and in different columns and rows, just write down what is going on in your head. And you will see a pattern forming. And trust me and call me whenever, don't call me, but you can message me whenever saying that I'm sure, like, you know, you will say that it has worked. Because when you put down your thoughts, when you put down things like names, there will be a pattern and you will get your answers from that pattern itself. So what I did in the beginning was I put the names of people who could be part of the documentary, right? I wanted to show the last 30 years of live music in Bombay. So I needed people who are probably not relevant now, but were relevant then. So had to identify those people and what could they possibly be talking about. And trust me, this changed, like, the subjects which we sort of, you know, focused on for each of these people, the outcome of it changed over time. These are a couple of the people whom we have showcased, like Deepti Unni is a celebrated journalist. Now she is not doing music journalism, but she's someone who is very inspiring. And I'm guessing you have had a session with Nisha Vasudevan. So she is also part of my documentary because she was like an avid gig goer back in the days. The second thing I worked on is like a visual I had. So when I started with this entire thought behind this documentary, the thought had occurred when like the visual which came to my mind was, if you have been to places like Antisocial, or if you have been to places where live music gigs happen, right? You will always see there is like this tiny little road right outside the venue, and it's very congested, and there is a lot of cacophony. People are smoking, people are talking, it's buzzing, right? Like that was probably one of the first visual which came to my mind. So it is very Bombay, the kind of background which we chose. So I had drawn some references along with the artist who helped me sort of make it into a sketch. So I wanted the vibe to look like something which Bombay as a city is known for. It's very bright in the night for some reason, right? There is the prominent red and blue which is always cutting through the darkness, what we see. So how can I bring that? There is always this constraint of space which is there. So from that we started developing that image to a thought. Do you guys know where Rang Bhavan is? Wow, that's great. Rang Bhavan is right next to Xavier's XIC. Yeah, it has shut down. It's one of the important subjects in the documentary where people from the 90s and 2000s. So you remember in the trailer when Vishal Dadlani said that these guys complained that rock music is heavy. So he was talking about Rang Bhavan. The people who live right next to Rang Bhavan complained, said that, hey, rock music is too loud, so you'll have to shut this program. So, and it was an end of a great live music space. Till date, a lot of artists talk about like how they miss that place. A lot of these people are from XIC, in fact, and what they would do, of course, is like, go for independence rock, which used to happen at Rang Bhavan. They would jump off the walls of Rang Bhavan from after bunking their college and things like that, and go for the concert. That's what is. And this place, which you see behind, this is inspired from Rang Bhavan. So if you go there, I mean, it's completely locked, the venue. But if you sort of find a space to climb on top, what I and my videographer, we did, we saw that there is nothing, like there are only bushes and things like that. And then there is this outline of a venue which is still existing. And it felt so nostalgic. I was not there, but I just felt like, wow, like the young people back in the 90s and early 2000s would have had such a great time, because the amount of stories we heard during the filmmaking process around Rang Bhavan is intense. The second thing, which I'll actually talk about later, but anyway, the sketch was developed after the vision discussion. We wanted to bring something which is very, like Bombay has this tint of blue purple in the night, and then there are these outlines of yellow and red. We wanted to focus on that. The third thing, and it's not noticeable here, but I'll tell you how we showed it, is like the challenge then came. I'm talking about the last 3 decades of live music in the city. So how do I show that in one visual? Like, what should be the treatment? What should be the visual language of it? So now I'll show you the ultimate poster, which was not done with AI, but an artist helped. So where you see the now playing bit is the Rang Bhavan stage we imagined. The people outside are the kind of people who are there in the film. Behind is like the ceiling. There is this black and white patch you saw was to depict the fact that the film also touches upon nostalgia, and it's not just modern. So that, and yeah, so, and this kind of visual, we sort of played it throughout the film whenever we had to talk about different decades or different generation, right? And also there is a dog, because that's a very common thing you will see outside antisocial and things like that, a cat or a dog. So I wanted more things like stubs of cigarettes, like, you know, things what you see actually, but we kept it at this. And anyway, the other part of how, when we sort of decided that these are the people who will be interviewed in the entire process of the filmmaking, and again I've taken a screenshot of this discussion guide. So what I did was I researched upon each and one of these artists and tried to do an online meet with them before we went up to go into an interview, because the interviews would be around 2 to 3 hours at times, because I'm not trying to get understand these people as an artist, but I'm trying to understand these people from like their thinking towards the city, like, you know, their relationship with the city as an artist, as a co-founder of an event company like 4x4, things like that. So we followed a discussion guide which sort of helped us navigate the questions. I would recommend, if tomorrow you want to, you know, be part of a non-fiction something, have a discussion guide. Don't go with like, I have these 5 questions in my mind and I'll ask the subject and that's it. One of the big parts was like when you have to sort of decode the 2-hour interview into a transcription process. So again, where did I go? Excel. And so this is another way I followed a process of whenever he said something interesting, I would follow the time code and what is it about. Sometimes a lot of people, what they do is they end it over here, like they would write the sentence and the start and end of it, but they will not talk about what exactly it is about. So I suggest, again, tomorrow, if you do follow something like that, mention like what is it that you liked about it. Otherwise you will get lost in the process, and trust me, I did that and it was a learning process for us. The biggest part, if you remember the first question I asked myself while making this documentary, what about the live music story I want to talk about? And that was found in the end when all 13 subjects we had interviewed. So around 80 hours of content we had to review, write down what are the interpretation, how is it going to add up to the story, and then we formed the entire script. And we would keep on editing it basis something where we found, whenever we found something very interesting. There was only one thing which was constant in my head and I didn't want to change that. It's that it should start with Randolph saying it's 5D 60. Bombay is like a planet. So that's the only thing which stayed intact throughout the filmmaking process. Nothing else was as is. Over the 3 years, everything kept on changing. So that's there. Another challenge to make a documentary when it has to be appealing, right? I did not want to make a documentary which is slow, which is 5 hours long, and you just have to pay attention and nothing happens. I wanted a tight cut. I wanted a cut which is appealing to the audience across generation. So that's what I wanted. The challenge lied in the footages from the 90s and the 2000s which we had sourced. Like again, like, you know, the interesting part, that's a photo from Rang Bhavan, what I spoke about. Anyway, the issue was, like, if you look at this image, this is from post 2010, this is from 2000, this is from early 90s. So the challenge lied in how to develop a visual language which sort of which can transcend across the decades, across the 90s, across the 2000, across the 2010. So we develop few of the visual tonalities which can sort of, have one effect across the decades and do justice to it. And another big part of working on a documentary which is around music is to get rights and permissions and then collating everything. And again, this is a screenshot of an extensive list of names and the source. And there are people who have uploaded certain gig videos when they used to be like in their IIT Bombay students phase, right? But they have become someone else now. They have become like, some big salesperson in some industry. So when I would reach out to them that, hey, like, this, I found this video on your YouTube channel and like I need permission for it, they would be like, what? Like, this is some part of my life which I've forgotten about. So I think people have been very kind in the entire filmmaking process, where they would readily be like, oh, I'm so like passionate about this subject that here you go, take the video. So, and also the fact that it's a non-commercial video, right? So that was the thing. There's another trailer I can play. You entered at such a right time. We showed your face and you were there. Yeah, so again, so like I said, this is the entire process what we followed while making the film. So going back to the 3 questions, as you saw, why it took me 3 years. Like, first of all, like I said, what do I want to talk about the music scene? Like, I found it in the end of the filmmaking process. Who should be the faces of it was like the first thing probably I had in hand, and Ashwin in fact helped a lot in identifying those people. And where do I begin with was an everyday challenge we had to face. So that's that. And yeah, cool. I have shown you this. Done. Oh yeah, and then our film went across the world and like did well. So that's great. Very grateful for the entire experience. I think it gave a lot of creative confidence because when you start working in this entire creative atmosphere, like there are a lot of guardrails which you have to follow, but when you make something of your own, it's a different kind of experience which is unparalleled, and I encourage all of you to sort of have that. I think that's about it, Ashwin. Yeah.
Okay, so I really loved her session. Her sessions were much more enthusiastic and it had a lot of insights. I really liked the campaign that she did, the Team Jagore, and also I'm a Bengali, so I could relate a lot with her.
So I think I loved the work definitely, but more than that, I think also the exercises. We really used both our left and right brains, so we loved the session.
I really loved the session, enjoyed it thoroughly. I specifically enjoyed the part when she actually started telling us about the tenets and how a different visual medium was used for a different campaign, identifying that medium, the process of identifying that medium. It was so beautiful, it was so lovely to understand the actual rigor that goes through. It was really amazing. Thank you so much.
So I really liked how the whole presentation broke down how the creative process works. And I learned a lot of keywords as well, like a visual tenet. I didn't know what it was. So whatever I learned, I can actually apply it when I'm, working with my own creative process.